Hello everybody and welcome back. Today I'm going to be filming a book haul. I know it's not been that long since my last book haul, but I never said I didn't have a problem. I just said I'm bringing you a book haul. I know we're in a slightly different location today. We're going to see how this works. My office is a utter disaster. I don't know if you'll be seeing this video before or after the disaster, so I'm not going to tell you why, but just know that we can't film in there. Like you don't want to see what's in there. But I needed to get this video filmed in order to complete the project that's in there. So I wanted to talk to you guys about some books. I bought some books. No one is shocked. I've also had some books sent to me. So again, no one's shocked. Let's start with the special editions that I have gotten. These aren't in any real particular order, I guess. The first one I want to talk about is the Goldsboro edition of Collar Bound by Rebecca Zahabi. I think I'm saying this correctly. This is an adult fantasy. It has super pretty sprayed edges. And I believe it is about a rebellion and a woman that is trying to get away from her kingdom, and she is going to be amongst other refugees. But when she's trying to fit in amongst the other mages, she has tattoo brands that mark her as an outcast. Tatters wears the golden collar of a slave, and he knows that this rebellion is completely different than other skirmishes. He was once one of the rebels, and technically they still own him. So we've got two different perspectives. It says, Zahabi's powerful fantasy hooks from the opening page and will appeal to fans of magical brink of war settings like R.F. Kuang's The Poppy War and S.A. Chakraborty's The City of Brass. Both of those are series that I absolutely love, so I'm very excited to actually finally get to this one. Next up, we have Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. This is the adult fairy loot, I believe, version of this one, and it is really pretty. I was super interested in this one when I first heard about it. Then I kind of read into the description a little bit more and was concerned it was going to be more of a contemporary type fantasy, but then Becca from Becca in the Books just read it and she loved it. So it has me really excited that hopefully I will too. This follows for the Queen of England, and I think they end up separating into two different covens, one that still does stuff for the Queen and another that has kind of gone off on its own, and they must come back together to stop a prophecy before it's too late, or will the things that have kept them apart and had them grow apart since childhood be too much to overcome? It is her first, I think, adult book, so I'm really excited to give this one a go, especially after Becca loved it so much. Then we have Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro, I think is how I'm supposed to say that. These edges are probably my favorite edges that I have ever had on a book. This is also one that Olivia from Olivia Reads a Latte just finished and absolutely adored. It is a historical fantasy set in 1882, and it's set in London where there are two children that are extremely powerful and they're being hunted by a man made of smoke. Charlie has the gift of healing himself while Marlowe glows with a strange bluish light. So when they're rescued by a detective, they go on a journey from gaslit streets of London to the local loss of Scotland, where the other gifted children, the Talents, have been gathered at the Carnadell Institute, and the realms of the dead and the living collide. It sounds just like something that I would enjoy. It is humongous, but I'm really excited to get to this one. I don't know why, but it sounds really good. And last but not least, we have this gorgeous edition of The Final Strife by Sahara El Arafi. I'm sure I am butchering that one. It has a sleeve, and this is what the actual book looks like. It has some really pretty end pages. I believe this is a young adult fantasy. Sorry for the angle change. We were talking about The Final Strife. I believe this is a young adult fantasy inspired by African culture. Oh, Africa and Arabia culture. It's about three women who band together against a cruel empire that is dividing people by blood. And then the empire begins a set of trials of combat and skill designed to find the new leaders. The stage is set for blood to flow, power to shift, and cities to burn. This is book one in a new trilogy. Sounds interesting. Normally YA is not something that I would be super interested in anymore, but that actually sounds really good, and it's getting great reviews so far, so I do want to give it a try. Okay, then moving on to the rest of my fantasy books, and then we'll get into the not fantasy here in a second. The first one we want to talk about is King of Ashes by Raymond E. Feist. I don't like this copy of the book. It is a library copy, and I just thought I was getting a regular hardback, so I will probably get a different copy in the future just because I can't get this nasty paper off. It is literally glued to the book. So anyway, this one is the first in the Firemane saga, and I believe it has dragons. And it's about two young men whose choices will determine the world's destiny. So this is, I know, an epic fantasy series, beloved by many. I do, like I said, want to give it a go, but probably not with this copy. I also think in here somewhere there should be the third book in this series, but I don't see it sitting here, so I'm not 100% sure where it went, but I got the third one in this series as well in hardcover. Next up, we have Kaigan of the Damned by Jonathan Mayberry. I believe Jonathan Mayberry is a horror author, and this is his first foray into fantasy. If I'm not mistaken, this is a revenge fantasy about our main character, Kagan, who has been charged to protect the imperial family, but one night they are all slaughtered, and so the gods abandon him and leave him disgraced and on his own. And then he is fueled by rage, and in order to exact his revenge, he must go into the strange lands, battle a bizarre and terrifying creatures, and gather allies for a suicide mission into the heart of the Witch King's empire. Sounds really interesting. I've heard good things based off of what I have heard, but I really don't know a whole lot about this book and haven't heard very many people talk about it, so I'm excited to give it a try. Next up, we have the Dragon Lords Fool's Gold by John Hollins. This is one that I've never seen anywhere. I believe it is about a world where dragons rule and their taxes are really, really high. And this group of, I don't know that they're criminals, but just mercenaries decide to band together and they're going to kill a dragon and lower the taxes. It sounds very interesting, and I've, like I said, never heard anybody talk about it, so I wanted to give it a try, plus dragons. Then we have the next two books in the Fateful and the Fallen series, Ruin and Wrath. I just needed books 3 and 4 to complete my collection. One of these days I will read Valor, but today is not that day. I'm a little bit scared of it. This is the 3rd and 4th book following Malice, and Malice is a epic fantasy series. It's multi-perspective. It does have the Chosen One and the Dark One battling against each other, prophecy trope, but done in a really, really good way. It's action-packed and I loved it, so I'm very, very excited to continue with the series, but I'm also a little bit terrified. Next up, we have one completely and totally influenced by Rachel, and that is The Green Rider by Kristen Britton. If you've ever heard Rachel talk about horse girl fantasy, this is what she is referring to. Do I know anything about the Green Rider series? No. Do I trust Rachel? Yes. So from what I can tell, this is about a magical messenger who is on the journey home from school after a fight. But when she's on her way home, a galloping horse bursts from the woods and its rider is slumped over the neck, impelled by 2 arrows. As the rider dies, he tells her that he is a Green Rider, one of the legendary messengers of the king, and he bears a life and death message for King Zachary. Like I said, Rachel absolutely loves this series, so I'm excited to at least try this first book, and I was able to find it not in the teeny tiny mass market, so I picked it up. Then we have The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. I got this off of Aaron's Pango secondhand. I do want to try this series and see if I like it. If I do love it, I will likely end up buying the UK covers that are the more pastel color, just because I think they're really, really pretty. That or Broken Binding is going to be doing another special edition of this series, so I might hold out for that. I don't know anything about this book. I just know that it is, I believe, a political fantasy. It says the meaning of justice changes in a revolution. And it was once a kingdom that is now divided into 7 with constant shifting alliances and battles. Interesting. Like I said, political, war, military fantasy. So I'm excited to try it. I have heard many people say that the latest book that came out was their favorite book of the year so far. So I know it's well loved. I know it does have an interesting writing style, but I'm still really excited to give it a go. Then we have The Flames of Mira by Clay Harmon. I have not heard many people talk about this book. I did hear Holly from Holly Hearts Books haul it. This is a book about a kingdom against fire and ice. So there are boiling volcanoes down under the frozen lands of Mira, and the people are forced to undergo life-threatening trials that bind the chemical elements to the human body. Sounds really interesting. I love the juxtaposition of the cover, the fire and ice, so I'm hoping this will be a really unique magic system. and a really good book. Then we have one that was influenced by both Emma and Cassidy, and that is Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey. This is a dragon book following dragon riders. It is a classic fantasy, and I just know that Cassidy gave it 5 stars. She loved it. It's really, really short, but does have a more dense writing style, so I think it'll take me a little bit of time to get to, but I'm excited. The Dragon Riders of Pern, or Dragons of Pern, yeah, Dragon Riders of Pern is a very renowned, inspired Aragon classic, epic dragon fantasy. And last but not least, another one that I got from Erin, and that is The Thousand Deaths of Arbor Ben by Tyler Whitesides. I believe this is a heist type of fantasy, and our main character, Arbor Ben, who is getting hired for a daring ruse, he knows he's going to need more than quick wit and sleight of hand, but it becomes clear soon that there's more at stake than fame and glory, that his team might just be the last hope for human civilization. Sounds really good. It's a lot chunkier than I thought it was gonna be, but Rachel said it reads really fast, so I'm excited to give this a try. And then moving on to the not fantasy books that I have acquired. There's not quite as many of these. The first one is The Hiding Place by CJ Tudor. This, I think, is the last one that I have not read by her. This author does the creepy thriller really, really well. Do I know what The Hiding Place is about? No. So after reading the synopsis, it seems like Joe has never really wanted to come home. He's always been away after the betrayal and the suicide of a friend. He never wanted to go back, but he has come back now, and he's trying to stay off the grid. There's a reason he's fascinated by the abandoned local mine that's been closed for years, but only Joe knows what really happened all those years ago and who is to blame. So interested to give this one a try. It's really short. It's the only CJ Tudor that I have not read yet. Then we have The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I've actually already read this one. I gave it 2 stars. It was not my favorite Riley Sager book. This is following our main character, who is a movie star, but when her husband dies, she secludes herself in the lake house to drink herself into a stupor. But in order to spice things up, I guess, she decides to spy on her neighbors across the lake and thinks that the husband is up to something nefarious. This one had a twist that I just didn't love. Riley Sager was trying to do something that unfortunately he was not very successful at. I still will read more, but this one just not really for me. Oh, I lied. I found another fantasy. This is The Adamantine Palace by Stephen Dees. It's the Memory of Flames book 1. This is also about dragons and dragon riders who essentially kind of harness the power of these dragons to have battles and things of that nature, but if they were to ever let them go off on their own and do whatever they wanted to, they would essentially destroy the world. But now there's political power that's threatening to upset the stability of the realms, and the unthinkable has happened. A dragon has gone missing. Sounds really interesting. It is a mass market paperback. I think that's all you can get this series in now, but that cover is so cool. I'm excited to give it a try. Then we have books 1 and 2 of the Finley Donovan series. I have read book 1, but not book 2 yet. This follows Finley Donovan, who is a mom. She's just trying to stay out of trouble, but one day she gets mistaken for a hit woman and makes a bunch of money, and now she's a hit woman. I found this to be very entertaining, very fast-paced. I read it at a period where I just need something very, very mindless, and I had a great time with it. So I'm very, very excited to try the second book and see if I like it as well as the first. And the last 2, one of which is Hide by Kristen White. I wish I had not bought this book, but I did. I had a lot of hopes for this because it is an adult horror following a group that ends up in an amusement park. They're, I think, playing like some kind of game, but then people start to die. It sounded really, really cool, but I've seen so many 1 and 2 star reviews for this book. Rye hated it, and so I'm a little bit terrified. I've heard that even though it's only like 270 pages long, it's super slow. I don't know. I'm a little scared of it. Who knows when I'll actually get around to reading it now. And last but not least, we have Foundation. This is a classic sci-fi that has been adapted into a TV show. Do I know a whole lot about what it's about? No. It's very short, and I want to watch the TV show, so I figured I should pick up the book. So let's find out what it's about together. For 12,000 years, the Galactic Empire ruled supreme, and now it's dying a slow death of entropy and corruption. Only Hari can see the future, a dark age of ignorance, barbarism, and intergalactic warfare. To preserve the accumulated wisdom of the ages and to save humankind, he gathers the best minds of the Empire and leads them on to a blink planet at the end of the galaxy. one of the great masterworks of science fiction. So it sounds like it's not going to be an epic sci-fi space opera type of book, but more of a scientific, societal type science fiction. So I'm interested to give it a try. I don't know if it'll be for me, but I at least want to give it a go. Okay, so I think those are all of the books that I needed to haul for you guys. I had a massive stack of fantasy this month, a lot that I'm really excited to get to. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these, and if you have, which ones you think I should start with first. There's a big old stack here. I definitely think too that I am the ones that I am the most excited to get to right now is Ordinary Monsters, Her Majesty's Royal Coven, Dragonflight, and The Thousand Deaths of Arter-Ben. All of those sound really interesting and they come with high praise, so super excited to get to those. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you just want to let me know you were here, leave me a Ferris wheel emoji, because why the heck not? I think they have Ferris wheel emojis. If you want to connect with me further, you can check out my Patreon linked down below. Also the links to my Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads. If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you wanna, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.